Welcome to the Water Guys podcast. My name is Louis Borges. Joining me as always, my good friend and co-host, Mr. Shane McCarthy.
Hello, good sir. How are you today?
We're doing well. And hello, everybody out in water and hydrogen enthusiast world. We're going to do a deep dive today on bottled water. So a lot of people we talk about, we sell water filtration products and hydrogen therapy. We help people all over the world. You mentioned before, Shane, a lot of people have the sort of head in the sand approach of I'm fine. And a lot of people's rebuttal to the filtered water question is, I'm good. I drink bottled water. And there are many types of bottled water, some of them with claims of alkalinity. But essentially, we want to get into what exactly is in the bottled water. What's in the water? What's in the bottle? And is it really something that is better than tap water? Or are you simply trading one evil for another? So we wanted to do a deep dive on that today. Again, there's a lot of information on this, so it would be very easy to turn this into a 4-hour show. We want to keep it short and concise, give everybody the straight goods. And Shane, I mean, you've been in the business 10 years or more. When people talk to you about drinking bottled water, you must just cringe like, oh no, here we go again.
Well, I mean, it's just, you gotta look at the different pieces of the puzzle as to why it's so bad for you. It's the container itself. They claim it's not full of BPAs. I question that. And the FDA will say there's an acceptable amount of microplastics or something like that allowed in the water, and we'll get into this type of stuff. If you get a bottle of water out of a vending machine or off of the shelf at a grocery store, how long has that been sitting there? How long was it sitting in transit for having the sun beat down on it? How long has that water been sitting in that plastic bottle for? And, as we know from our good friend Masahiro Emoto, what the frequency in water matters in a big way. I mean, this is old school things that have been done. People have been praying and blessing their water for a long time. And there's reason for that, because it works. Water has memory, water has knowledge, water has life. And while it's sitting there in that plastic bottle, that life is not there anymore. And then you put that into your body, and then it starts expressing itself out of you in many different ways. But yeah, this is gonna be a good episode.
Yeah, I mean, there's more to water than simply H2O. And you've said it in the past, Shane. Pure H2O or distilled water is actually a solvent. It's not that the water nature intended for mineral balance and absorption and hydration. A deer drinking water out of a stream, it's a certain type of water versus something bleached sitting in a plastic bottle. And we'll get into the plastics and that type of thing. But one thing to keep in mind about plastics is 200 years ago, we didn't have them. So plastics are a fairly new thing in terms of the industrialized civilization. So initially we start realizing that, hey, wait a minute, we're filling landfills with plastic, styrofoam cups. These things take 100, in some cases 1,000 years to degrade. So sort of the half-life of the plastic was the concern. Then they start realizing, wait a minute, we now have bits of plastic in the ocean, and now they're microplastic, where you can only see them at a microscopic level. Now science is saying that they're breaking down even further into nanoplastics, and nobody's municipal water around the world is filtering at the nano scale. Yes, it is possible, but the cost would be exorbitant. And there's already evidence of cost cutting in water treatment, because if you look at sites like EWG.org in the US, put in your zip code, it's going to tell you have 400% of the carcinogens in your water that you should. So don't think, and there's even a disclaimer on the site that says legal may not equal safe. So it's kind of like the government washed their hands and said, we're good. We told you your water's crap. You didn't find the info. That's on you. So now more than ever, there's a lot of frustration from people too, being like, well, I've been drinking tap water my whole life, and so did my grandfather. Well, the tap water then didn't have a lot of the compounds in it that we have now. So he may have only been exposed to, poisons essentially in the water for the last 10 or 20 years of his life. Whereas we've grown up, our children grow up. If you start that toxicity level at a young age, that's when you start getting hormonal issues, kids in their 20s having problems, early puberty. The list of issues that come out of intaking bad water is a mile long. But we'll get into that. Like you said, Shane, water is living, water has memory. And one of the pioneering scientists that did this work is a Japanese man named Masaharu Emoto. He looked at water crystals that were given an intention of love and water that was given an intention of hate. Literally 2 bottles of water, write the word love on one bottle and hate on the other, and then look at it under a microscope and see if there's any changes in the structure of water. So many of you might be familiar with it, but many of you may not. So we have 2 short clips here just to explain the work and the sort of science behind the fact that water is in fact living. It compromises 70% of us. So when you pair the fact that your water has a memory and you can give it good or bad intentions, even things like being depressed or living in a negative state of mind can actually, affect your physical health. So let's get into Masaharu on the life of water.
Fire it up.
We've been forming crystals for more than a dozen years. From our tests, we came to the conclusion that living water forms more hexagonal crystals, and less vibrant or dead water doesn't form hexagonal shapes. What concerns me is that water from any big city tends not to form beautiful crystals. When water travels in the city, it collects negative information from the people and pollution. Also, the more chlorine in the water, the less crystals can form. We also have pipes that make lots of turns. Imagine if you were water. You might want to die with all this unnatural and forced movement.
And then this is what the water actually looks like during the tests that he performed.
This next series of photographs are the work of Japanese researcher Mr. Masaru Emoto from his book, The Message from Water. Mr. Emoto's work provides factual evidence that human vibrational energy, thoughts, words, ideas, and music affect the molecular structure of water. Please remember that water comprises over 70% of a mature human body and covers the same amount on our planet. Water is the very source of all life. This photo shows the beautifully formed geometric design of the Yushi Spring water. This next photo is from the Shimanto River, the last clean spring in Japan. Notice the extraordinary geometric forms. The fact that the molecular structure of water can be affected by our consciousness, our intent, and our sounds is extremely important. This photo is from the Mount Cook Glacier in New Zealand. Mr. Emoto has been visually documenting these molecular changes in water by means of his photographic techniques. He freezes droplets of water, then examines them under a dark field microscope that has photographic capabilities. His work clearly demonstrates the diversity of the molecular structure of water and the effects of the environment upon the structure of the water. This photo is from the fountain in Lourdes, France. This photo is from contaminated water from the Yodo River in Japan. In this photo, we can compare the contaminated water with clean stream water. Look at the difference.
And even when they show ones that have love or hate, the hate is a black, devoid of any shape crystal, and the love and the prosperity intentioned water has these amazing snowflake, hexagonal shapes. So I mean, again, it's interesting when you look at that and it's like, okay, well, what kind of water are you putting in your body? And I mean, this even goes back to there was a guy named Victor Schauberger. He called himself the water wizard. And he saw that vortices or water in motion purified itself, and it became sort of the the healing force. He believed that the vortex of water was the structure. And to what Mr. Emoto was saying there, even the sharp turns in the pipes, your home plumbing, it's not a natural flow like it would be over a waterfall, around rocks, very smooth. It just, and it does something at a molecular level to your water. So what does that mean? Well, what kind of water are we drinking? Are we drinking really unpurified tap water? Even if we run it through a charcoal filter or a pitcher system, we think we filtered it. Just because they got rid of the smell and the chlorine taste doesn't mean it purified your water. And I find even having discussions with people that are getting into filtration myself, they're frustrated. They're like, what do you mean I got to buy $1,000 or more machine to deal with this? And it's kind of like, thank the people that put you in that situation. Like we all do, it sucks.
Yeah, we're we're not the problem. We're the solution to the problem. That's I'm sorry that if you're just waking up to the fact that you might want to invest in the water that you're ingesting into your body, but I mean it just makes a lot of sense. And like, okay, if you want to go the cheaper route, go bottled water route. I mean, and this is just on a monetary level, like over a year or two of drinking bottled water. If you're drinking a proper amount of water, if you're at least attempting to hydrate you, because it's not how much water you drink, it's like what kind of water you drink. If you're that price is gonna add up very quickly.
Yeah,
and you can invest in the better quality water bottles, or so we're sold as better quality water bottles. But then you see, Fiji getting recalled for having too much manganese in the water, and so I mean, I guess the point is the water matters very, very much, and you need to do something about it based off of the water that is presented to us, that we use, ingest, drink, shower, bathe in on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's another big one too, is even if you are conscious of the water you drink, you have invested in a proper filtration system, most people are still all too happy to go jump in the shower with unfiltered tap water, which you'll absorb just as much of as if you were drinking it. Your skin is very porous. I forget how many liters you uptake in a shower, but it's considerable. So it's not only the water you drink, but it's also the water you bathe in, right?
Yeah, and you're breathing the gases in, and your hot, steamy shower, the chlorine that's in everybody's water gets turned into chloride, and then you breathe that in, and that's, the biggest part, or biggest issue you got to worry about there. And it's there is a lot to it, and it's just, just because the water is clear doesn't mean it's pure.
Yeah.
And that, again, that matters. Your body, as stated in the video, is 70% water. I mean, that can be argued as 65 to 70 to 75%. It also depends on where you're looking at in your body, but the point of the matter is it makes a very big difference in your overall health, and not only the water you're drinking, but how hydrated you are or are not from the water.
Yeah, and are you absorbing this water? Like, does the water have the proper trace minerals in it to actually be hydrating, or are you just passing it through? Does the water have hydrogen enrichment where it can remove antioxidants as well? So there's drinking water, and there's getting proper hydration, and then therapeutic benefit from water. Water is life. It is the life force, but we've done a lot to damage the natural ecosystem of things, including the water. And even if you don't believe in the fact that intention and things have an effect, look at it from a purely biological and chemistry point of view. There are things in our water, like you mentioned, chloramines in the shower and stuff like that. But like, you got pesticides, you've got birth control, you've got your neighbor's birth control that's being urinated into the water that is not getting filtered out. Water filtration at a municipal city level is the removal of the bulk of solids, UV light to kill anything that's left, and then shock it with chlorine just for insurance. Their main concern is that you don't get acutely ill overnight. Nobody's looking at long-term effects of, hey, maybe there shouldn't be arsenic or fluoride in people's drinking water. Maybe some of the we thought were good in the 70s or before, maybe we know more now. And some of these limits haven't been adjusted in 30 years. Same thing with the FDA and food additives and things like that. There are things they're putting into food that haven't had any relevant studies done in decades. And we used to think they were good, but we know better now. So you kind of have to be your own ambassador and do your own research, which is difficult because there's a lot of information. Some of it is poor, some of it is incorrect. So you have to take it all in. You'll recognize what's junk when you've listened to enough legitimate stuff. You'll be able to weed out, hey, you know, 15 doctors are all saying this in common. Some dude that no one's ever heard of is now arguing with science as a non-scientist. So the only way you can argue with science is if you bring better science. That's how the scientific method works. You can't just use your opinion. And there's a lot of
science doesn't care about your opinion.
Based advertising, marketing, people showing you videos of lifestyle and health and all that. And you just got to drink this alkaline water that's 9 years old that you buy at the gas station, and that'll get you there. It's selling the dream. And I don't blame people for wanting a piece of that because people are sick. People don't feel right. If it's something that's cheap and easy, hey, I'm going to try it. And there's a lot of companies taking advantage of the fact. And you mentioned bottled water and savings. I have a member of my family that only drinks Fiji water. And she compared the price of a water ionizer to what she spends on bottled water. And she could have bought one 4 times over already. She estimates in the last 10 years, she spent $12,000 on bottled water, $100 a month, right? You do the math, that's a lot. So, you know, some of these machines are expensive, but you got to look at what am I really spending and what's the price of taking care of my health now versus taking care of my health when I'm in a state of poor health. You know,
proactive versus reactive. And, you know, at the end of the day, at a certain point in your life, you're going to have to invest in your health.
Exactly. A pound of, what is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's easier to do it when you're feeling good than when you're already in a state of disease, and you may never recover from that. It may become a chronic condition. Your lifestyle gets affected. You're not feeling good. You don't want to do things. You know, the dream is you work all your life, you retire, you travel the world. But most people are sick by the time they retire, and that never becomes a reality. So everything they were working for their whole life is never going to come to fruition. Because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And we know this.
It's a sad, that's a sad thing to think of, but you know, it also is what it is. That's the world that we live in. And, you know, we want to see people thrive, not just survive. And so, okay, we've got the problem, you know, nailed down here, and that is that, you know, your the water that comes out of the faucet in your home, probably not so good. And by probably, I mean it just isn't. You need to do something about that. Okay, what do you do? What do I do? Do you know, are you going to drink bottled water? Well, what are some of the things that are in the bottled water that people don't really take into consideration?
Yeah, and I've got some video clips on that right now. We'll run through them. Everything from what's in the bottled water, microplastics, comparisons of the various claims of water that say, hey, yes, we are bottled water, but we're better, and here's why. Is there any validity to that? And we've even got a clip from a doctor here on why you should not be drinking bottled water. Something we all know, but we don't really think about as often as we should. So let's get started with with what's in bottled water, and we'll go from there.
A lot of people tell you to drink your water, but they don't specify what water to drink and what material your water should be in. So water like this, completely fake. It's not real natural water, and they're in plastic bottles. So they have BPA, BPS, microplastics in here. You don't want this. Something like this in a glass bottle, natural spring water, is the best option.
Now, keep in mind, a lot of the bottled water in glass is just ozonated water. It is tap water that's been run through some type of a filtration process and then bottled. So yes, glass bottles could be better, but what is in that water? Natural spring water. Okay, well, a lot of natural spring water has other things on the water table leaching into it. There are very few, you know, pristine springs around the world that still exist. And there comes the sort of premium world of bottled water. Companies like Fiji and Evian promising higher quality water. This isn't, Dasani or Aquafina filter tap water. This is like Swiss Alps mountain water. Is there anything to that? And I've got a clip here on somebody who did some researching on Evian and other French brands that claim to be, mountain spring water. Is there really any validity to that? Let's take a look.
So Evian is one of the bad ones, in my opinion, with a lot of the other French. They are low in minerals, meaning as they're low in minerals, you actually become thirsty more trying to get minerals. Whereas in every hot country, they seem to have their own local mineral-rich sparkling water. So in Croatia, it's Jamnica, and here it's Vichy Catalan. Very high in minerals, it hydrates you very well. You don't have to keep on drinking water all day, every day, just to get the right amount of minerals in it. The other issue is most of this bottled water comes in plastic. And when this water gets hot, or the bottles get hot in transport, actually you get microplastics in the water. So try to stick to glass bottled water, high mineral, which is this one in Spain.
Big thing I find with a lot of those is they're carbonated. And I read an article yesterday that says that carbonated water may not actually be good because of the amount of gas you build up in your gut when you're drinking it. You actually drink less than you should be drinking in a day. And it gives you that artificially full sense. And having that additional gas dissolved in a liquid actually creates acid, similar to soda pop. And it's not good for your enamel lining on your teeth. So even though it might be something like, I won't say the name, but fizzy Italian spring water, expensive fizzy Italian spring water, is really not doing anything for you. It's not hydrating you. Yes, you might be getting minerals. I've tested the mineral levels with a TDS meter in the fancy Italian water compared to normal spring water. Normal spring water will have a TDS value of somewhere around 200 parts per million, whereas the fancy Italian bubbly water is 800 to 1,000. So first thing that comes into my mind is what is the implications of like kidney stones and things moving forward with having too much calcium and too much minerals. If that was the only water I drank, it's almost too much of a good thing. You're going the other direction. Again, it's deviated from that natural water, which has very low TDS, no contamination, and the only dissolved solids being trace minerals from going over rocks and things like that. And again, if you put limestone water, it makes it very tasty. In fact, distillers in Tennessee make, the best whiskey in North America using limestone rich water, but that's the same limestone that makes scale and, stains in your bathtub and things like that. So what type of minerals are good? What is a good amount? Things like Irish moss and Celtic salts and things like that, they're good. But if you look at the dose in a 2-liter size vat, you're putting like 1 drop. That's it. That's all you really need to get the trace minerals. You don't need 1,000 parts per million to do that. And then you get into the world of alkaline water. Shane, you've been in the alkaline world dispelling myths for years. You know better than anybody that it's not the alkalinity per se that's beneficial. It's the dissolved hydrogen within that. And so companies selling, alkaline water, you can test it. It's 9.5 pH, but there's 0 hydrogen in it. It's full of plastics. Who knows how old it is? And what is the life force in that water? I mean, you can make water alkaline by putting baking soda in it. It doesn't give it a therapeutic benefit. So it's a bit misleading.
And in fact, if you had, baking soda water for an extended period of time, you're going to actually run into issues.
Yes.
Because that type of we often forget how advanced our vehicles, our bodies are. In that, if you have something that's too alkaline, your stomach is just going to create more stomach acid because your stomach sits at a pH of about 1.8, which is extremely acidic, and it's full of hydrochloric acid, and that is there to kill bacteria and help the precursor of breaking food down. And so if you are drinking too high of an alkaline water, then you're going to just have more stomach acid created, and that creates issues in and of itself in your stomach. So
It prevents the digestion process from happening. You need
Yeah.
that strong acid to break down your food. Where hydrogen is unique is that by putting hydrogen in the water, it's not affecting the pH of your stomach. What it is doing is letting the enzymes that your body uses to break down your food into minerals and vitamins, it's allowing those enzymes to work better.
Even
And that's
better.
what
Yeah.
they call
Exactly.
apoptotic effects, right?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot more to it than just drinking alkaline water. But again, we saw a clip of the Lourdes, France spring,
Mhm.
what the water looked like, been known for healing benefits. When Japanese scientists were studying decades
Yep.
ago, the first thing they found was, hey, this water seems to be slightly alkaline. It must be the alkalinity. So then there's a wave of alkaline water machines.
Yeah.
Some were not concerned with making hydrogen, just alkaline water. And
Yeah.
now they've come to find out that it's the hydrogen that these machines, some of these machines can make, that
Yeah.
is actually the benefit, not the alkalinity. I've heard stories of people running, these fancy Japanese ionizers that are $8,000 and you can only buy them from a guy who knows a guy. People
Yeah.
are running those on like the highest setting because
Yeah.
that's the only way they're actually going to get a little bit of hydrogen out of it.
Yeah.
But now you're drinking water at pH of like 11.5 or 12, way
Yeah.
too alkaline for your body.
And I
And they're
will.
going to have negative side effects of that. And
Yeah.
like you've mentioned in the past, Shane, the worst thing that can happen is you try a bad hydrogen product, you get a bad taste in your mouth, you say, this stuff doesn't work, and it was a huge waste of money.
Yeah.
And now that's gone against those in the industry that are actually using the right products and seeing the benefit. So it's
Mhm.
more dangerous than just wasting your money. It's the fact that you think there's nothing to this when there really is, only because you had a bad experience with the wrong product.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to. You got to really know who and what you're getting your products for, because there are, just this episode alone, there's so many different questions that come up with
Yeah.
the water. And the focus on this episode is to show just bottled water alone. Like, we can do episodes on tap water and other water machines and what they're doing. And then there is a very large amount of information out there, and as you mentioned, some of it's good, some of it's not, and some of it's meant to encourage you to purchase a product that might not do what you think it's going to do, and then it just puts a bad taste in the water, so to speak, and deters other people from taking control of their water and doing it right to begin with. So
Yeah. And there's a lot of information out there. Do your due diligence. We found an article on CNN. We mentioned, plastics down to micro level, now down to nano level.
Yep.
Plastic water bottle industry, not to mention the pollution and waste of this plastic in the ocean. For that reason alone, we should get rid of it. But here's an example. 1 liter of water, so the equivalent of 2 standard water bottles, contain an average of 240,000, 240,000 particles from 7 types of plastics. 90% were identified as nanoplastics, while the rest were micro. And, a lot of these people talk about, well, there's no BPA. Everybody needs to know that BPA was outlawed and it was replaced with BPS, which is almost the identical molecule. It's just a slight variation. And that is what's lining the cups of like Starbucks. That sort of waxy. That's what's on your receipts when you get a receipt from the store. That's slimy, shiny. So BPS is just as bad as BPA. So when you see a product and you're like, oh, well, it's BPA free. Yeah, but that's only because the replacement hasn't been outlawed yet. And I'm sure in 10 years it will be, when we realize it's just as bad as BPA. And the reason BPA is bad, it's an endocrine disruptor. The molecule of BPA seems to bond with our molecules in the same places that hormones like estrogen would bond. So it tricks your body into feeling like it's receiving estrogen. So you have animals becoming feminized. You have elk in Montana drinking from the streams with high levels of BPA that can no longer reproduce. You have, young males developing breasts as a result of that, right? So again, there's a lot of ongoing studies. Nothing is 100% conclusive. There's just a lot of red flags pointing at, hey, where is this coming from? It's not just the pollution factor of plastic.
Where is this coming from, and what are you doing about it, type of thing?
That's right. Yeah. And unfortunately, we're at the stage in life where if we don't pay attention to these things, the people we think are in charge of taking care of our health are really not. And it is on you. The onus is on us. It's shame.
Yep.
But
Because and as I say, if you don't filter your water, you become the filter for your water.
that's right.
And that unfortunately includes with plastic bottled water too.
That's right. Yeah. And here's one from England talking about so to be considered microplastic, it has to be 5 millimeters or less in size. Breaking things down even further at the nano level, a nanoplastic is less than 1 micron in size. And like our water filtration system, our RO system will filter to 1/10,000th of a micron because it is necessary. There are nanoparticles. That's the only way to get them out, is to filter at a smaller level than the nano level. And people have found plastic particles in human blood, lungs, our gut, our feces, our reproductive tissues, placenta, testicles. So the implications being mainly reproductive in nature. Again, this is an endocrine disruptor, the plastic itself, right? And yeah, I mean, I've got a little clip here on
Yeah, it's creating
microplastics and
havoc
water.
on society, right? Like this has become a huge. I've heard of men in their early 20s taking testosterone replacement therapy. Like that's when your testosterone should be literally at the highest possible level.
Yeah.
And you're already like that's something that people over the age of 40 start doing or should.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So a couple more clips on this topic here. We'll do microplastics and water, and then Dr. Sethi and why you should not drink plastic water. And we'll go from there. By the way, if anybody has any comments or anything like that, please leave them in the chat down below. You can also contact us through our website at tech4health.ca. Follow us on Facebook and leave us your comments below. We always love hearing from everybody. And it's what makes these conversations propagate, right? New questions, new information. This is a community of informed people we're trying to create.
And that's what science is all about, is asking questions.
That's exactly right. Yep. Okay, here we go. Microplastics in the water.
Still sipping on plastic water bottles? This may give you a change of heart. Disturbing new findings have confirmed that microplastic particles have now penetrated deep into human heart tissue. Scientists detected tens to thousands of individual microplastic pieces embedded in most human heart tissue samples.
Okay, that can't be good, right?
Although this study had only 15 participants, the researchers say they provided preliminary evidence that various microplastics can accumulate and persist in the heart and its innermost tissues. This evidence flies in the face of the common narrative that our bodies can just filter out these small, everyday toxic exposures. Our liver can handle it.
Yeah, okay.
The fact is, most of these toxins, especially heavy metals, pesticides, and microplastic, bioaccumulate in our tissues and organs, potentially leading to both short and long-term health consequences to our immune systems, hormones, heart health, and more. So the next time someone calls you crazy for your choice not to eat or drink from plastic, hold your reusable stainless steel or glass water bottle high and share this video with a plastic-loving friend.
I love that. Thank you, non-toxic dad. I appreciate that video a lot. That was good. It was really good content to it. But I think we've looked at all the different problems of the bottled water. I think it's pretty established now that, okay, maybe stay away from bottled water. But okay, what do you do then?
Yeah.
You get yourself a stainless steel or a glass water bottle, and you get yourself a filtration system that makes sense for you and your family's health, and don't wait on that. This is you and your family's health, and the foundation to your health is in a big way, the water that you're drinking.
Yeah, very well said. And I've got I'll bring us to our website real quick here, just so everybody can take a look. This is our reverse osmosis water filtration system. Again, we took all the good things about proper filtration and removed all the bad things about the old-fashioned RO systems. The big bulky tanks that go under your counter, low flow, so many filters to change, the price. We basically have it where
needs to be dismantled.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a device anybody can install on their own. It'll actually show you your pre-filtered value and your post-filtered value, so you can see the machine working. You don't have to guess about replacing your filters. You have indicators that tell you. So if your filter's still good at 9 months, you don't have to replace it at 9 months, and you can still get the better life out of it. Our filters are the cheapest on the market, less than $40, and we do have a self-cleaning system here. So basically what it means, every time it's going to filter your water, it's going to flush a little bit of water through the membrane to prolong the life of that. So rather than having to replace that annually, like you would with many other devices, with our system, you basically have 2 filters, and that's all you have to replace every 6 to 9 months. Main filters, roughly 2 to 5 years, depending how many gallons you flow through it. But a big complaint about those reverse osmosis systems is the lack of minerals. Sure, it strips everything out of the water, but now you basically have distilled water, and there's no flavor to it. There's no medicinal benefit. There's no hydration. And the inability to get minerals back is one of the things that plagues a lot of those companies out there, right?
Yeah.
So essentially what we need to look at is which minerals matter. We discovered it's calcium, magnesium, potassium, and a tiny bit of sodium for that trace mineral salt, the electrolyte component. Just like drinking, Gatorade or any sports drink or electrolyte mix, we understand electrolytes improve hydration. So having that right at your tap where you don't have to do anything further to it. And that's essentially what we've done. We've taken the best of RO and improved it. We took a 5-stage system and made it into an 8-stage system, compact, easy to use. There's no, million
countertop or under the counter. And I think one of the things, especially as we've discussed, what might be new to a lot of people, and that is the nanoplastics of water, is the filtration with the RO system from Tech for Health. It will remove what is it, 1/10,000th, anything up to 1/10,000th of a micron. And so we're well into the nano level and taking everything out of the water, but then putting the real electrolytes, the real minerals back in your water. Whereas a lot of companies, if they even have a remineralization filter, it's a synthetic version of it, and you're getting your magnesium sulfate, calcium sulfate, and it's not going to it's going to cause problems of its own, as it's an unnatural inorganic compound for your body.
Yeah, your body can't absorb it in the presence of sulfur. And natural drinking water has lots of things in it. There's even like tiny bits of lithium, strontium. There are some metals that are good, but to, build that into a commercial unit, you run the risk of now ingesting heavy metals. So we opted to stay away from anything to do with metals. We opted to go with a device that has a certification, that has been tested, third party, as well as our own. And then we've upgraded the system to include things like a UV light, just as insurance. And in fact, even our factory where we designed the product through, they told us that the way we have it designed, you don't need the UV light per se, because it is filtered at such a high level, the UV light won't do what a normal UV light does, which is kill all that extra bacteria, because by that point, the bacteria is gone. We have it in there for insurance. We have it in there because our competition have it in there. They rely on theirs more than we do. But it's for the extra $20 a unit it cost us to do. It's good insurance, it's good protection to have. But realistically, we focused on the filtration. What is the best level of filtration we can get? How do we put that back to its most natural state with trace minerals? And how do we put it in a form that's easy, anybody can use, and it can hook up to any water source? So, I mean, in theory, if you hook that up to a garden hose, you would just need an adapter for the small hose that goes with the machine, right? So anywhere you have a water source,
it is doable for sure. Yeah,
it is totally doable. Yeah. And if you do want more information on our products, again, visit techforhealth.ca, and you can always reach out to us, and we're always happy to help. And final clip is from a doctor. We always like to provide actual MDs rather than just influencers talking, because again, you should only accept medical advice from a medical doctor. We are not doctors. We're not giving any medical advice, just giving you advice on how to search for what it is you're looking for in the world of water, filtration, and hydrogen therapy. So here's Dr. Sethi on not using plastic water bottles.
Stop using plastic water bottles. I'm Dr. Sethi, and I avoid using plastic water bottles. A recent study found that 1 liter of plastic water bottle can leach approximately 240,000 nanoplastic particles, and these have the potential to penetrate human cells and gain entry into the bloodstream and major organs. There are concerns that these plastic particles can be endocrine disruptors. They can lead to hormone imbalances and lots of health issues, especially if you're out in the heat heat because the heat will cause even more release of microplastics into your water bottle. Microplastics have also been found to possibly cross the placenta. So if you can, try to use stainless steel bottles, especially if you're going to be outside in the heat. Now, I get it. It is almost impossible to avoid plastic water bottles all the time. But I do encourage you to make a mindful, conscious effort to stop grabbing the plastic water bottle whenever possible. Share this with your loved ones to spread awareness.
Yeah,
I love that.
from the pollution end, it's worth it to switch. From the fact that the water's dead and who knows how old and who knows what level of filtration. It just says filtered water. You don't know what kind of filter they use. Is there minerals in it?
Could
Is
be
there
Brita.
not? Like, you just don't know. So for that end, it's worth it. And, you know, the fact that we know that water is life, we're comprised majority of water. It's important to put the right water in your body. And especially if you take, you know, health and fitness and things like that seriously. You know, I've got a bodybuilder friend who's probably spending $2,000 a month on supplements and food and everything else. And you know, so for him, it's like $1,000 water filtration system. That's a piece of cake. Like, of course, I'm going to have that. I'm doing everything else to increase my chances and maximize my, you know, fitness. I'm not going to leave my primary fuel without taking care of that as well. So you either take care of your health when you're healthy or you take care of it when you're sick. Either way, it's going to happen.
I mean, it comes down to whether you want to thrive or just survive. You know, and if you are proactive on your health, it's because you want to thrive. You want the time that you spend here to be at its, you know, best levels. You don't want sickness to hold you back or dis-ease because your body is out of balance to hold you back in any way. And, you know, the great place to start is with the water that you're drinking. And so that's where we come in, and we are happy to help. And like Louis said, you know, any questions that you have, we are more than happy to have them answered for you, just so you are making an informed decision for you and your family's health. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and we have special discounts for anybody watching the show. You can use discount code WaterGuys10. Go to techforhealth.ca, WaterGuys10 at checkout, and it'll save you 10% off everything on the store, sale price or otherwise. And that code will not expire. So WaterGuys10, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to have you. And that's all I got for today. Shane, any final thoughts before we close out?
Like I always say, if you don't filter your water, you become the filter for your water. Thanks, Louis. Okay,
everyone. We'll see you on the next episode. Stay hydrated and spread the word. We'll talk to you again.